right, welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be tackling some pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. Our listener sent in some material focused on learning English, which is cool.
But
But there's a twist. It uses philosophical discussions as the basis for the lessons.
so we're going to be doing a deep dive into the philosophy baked into these English lessons.
We'll be extracting the core arguments and questions raised, trying to get to the heart of these philosophical discussions.
Just a deep dive within a deep dive, you know?
Exactly. And to make sure we're on the same page, the listener's material seems to focus on three main areas: the nature of reality, the meaning of life, and that age-old debate, free will versus determinism.
Big questions, huh? So, where do we even begin with something as massive as the nature of reality?
Well, I guess the most fundamental question is this: is reality purely physical? Everything explained by laws of physics, or is there something more, something non-physical at play?
Right, like, is it all just atoms and energy, or is there something else going on, something beyond the material world?
Right. And, there are some pretty strong arguments for both sides. Like, the material you sent highlights the power of physicalism.
Physicalism.
Yeah, basically the idea that everything, and I mean everything, can ultimately be explained by physical laws and principles. If we understood physics perfectly, we could understand everything.
So, like, our thoughts, feelings, consciousness, it's all just physics at the end of the day.
That's the gist of it, yeah. And to be fair, this view has a lot going for it. Think about it. So much of what we observe in the world, from tiny particles to galaxies, can be explained by physics.
It's a pretty compelling argument when you put it that way. But what about the other side of the coin? What are the arguments against physicalism? Where does it fall short?
Well, as the material points out, the main counter-argument is that this physicalist view might just be too narrow. It might not be able to fully account for everything we experience.
Like, what does it struggle to explain?
One of the biggest sticking points is consciousness. That feeling of subjective experience, of what it's like to be you. It's hard to see how that just pops out of physical processes.
Yeah, I mean, how do you explain the feeling of joy or the experience of seeing the color red in purely physical terms?
Exactly. And the material also touches on the idea of a higher power, something beyond the physical realm, as another potential challenge to a purely physicalist view.
So we've got these two big frameworks for thinking about reality. Physicalism versus the idea that there's more to it, something non-physical. But then there's this other layer that the material brings in, which is super interesting to me: the role of perception.
Oh yeah, that's a crucial piece of the puzzle. Our brains aren't just passively receiving information, they're actively constructing our experience of the world based on the sensory data they receive.
So it's not just about what's out there, but also about how our brains interpret and make sense of it.
Exactly. It's like our brains are constantly taking this raw data from our senses and weaving it into a coherent story about what we call reality.
But that means our perception isn't always accurate, right? I mean, think about optical illusions. Those things mess with our brains, show us how easily we can be fooled.
Absolutely. The material actually uses the example of optical illusions to highlight how subjective and even flawed our perception can be. Like, you see one thing, but your brain is actually interpreting the information in a way that's not quite aligned with objective reality.
It makes you wonder how much of what we experience is shaped by our own individual perception, our own unique way of interpreting the world.
That's a question worth pondering, right? If what we perceive as real is so influenced by our own brains, what does that say about the nature of reality itself?
Makes you realize how active a role we play in shaping our own realities. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about something that's probably on everyone's mind at some point: the meaning of life. Is it something we're meant to find out there in the world, like some hidden treasure? Or do we actually create it ourselves?
Another biggie. And the material presents both of these viewpoints. On one hand, you've got this idea that meaning is inherent in the universe. It's like a cosmic truth waiting to be uncovered, maybe through philosophical pondering or spiritual seeking.
So it's out there somewhere, just waiting for us to stumble upon it.
That's one way of looking at it. But then you have this other perspective. Meaning isn't something you find, it's something you make. It's about the choices you make, the experiences you have, the connections you forge with others.
So, like, meaning isn't preordained. It's actively constructed by each of us through our lives.
Exactly. And the material explores different ideas about what that meaning might look like. For some, it's about achieving happiness or fulfillment. For others, it's about serving a higher purpose, maybe through religion, activism, or something else entirely.
And a big theme that keeps popping up is the idea of making a positive impact on the world, leaving it a little better than we found it.
Absolutely. But, a big part of figuring out what gives your life meaning is understanding your own values and ethics. What do you hold most dear? What guides your actions?
It's like our values are the compass that points us towards a meaningful life. So if you value compassion, maybe you find meaning in helping others. If you prioritize creativity, maybe it's through art or innovation.
Right. Our values and ethics are the framework we use to evaluate our lives and figure out what truly matters.
So it's not just about finding meaning out there or creating it in a vacuum. It's about aligning our actions with our deepest values, living a life that feels authentic and meaningful to us.
Makes sense, right. Now, buckle up because the last stop on our philosophical tour is a real head scratcher. Free will versus determinism.
Oh boy, here we go. So are we truly in control of our choices, or are we just puppets dancing to the strings of fate?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The material lays out the determinist viewpoint, which argues that every event, every thought, every decision is the inevitable result of causes that came before it, like a chain reaction stretching all the way back to the Big Bang.
So if determinism is true, even our most conscious decisions were set in motion long before we even existed.
That's the implication, yeah. No room for genuine free choices. Everything's just playing out according to a predetermined script.
Which I gotta say, kind of makes you question the whole idea of personal responsibility, doesn't it? I mean, if we're not truly making choices, can we really be held accountable for our actions?
That's a big one, and the material digs into this too. The idea that if our behavior is just the result of causes beyond our control, how can we be praised or blamed for what we do?
It kind of undermines the whole foundation of our legal system and even our moral judgments, Like if someone commits a crime but they were predetermined to do it, can we really punish them?
It's a slippery slope for sure. But on the flip side, you have the argument for free will, which many find intuitively appealing. We feel like we're making choices, right? It seems undeniable.
Yeah, I mean, right now I feel like I'm choosing to continue this conversation. It doesn't feel predetermined at all.
Exactly. That feeling of agency, of being the author of your own actions, is a powerful argument for free will. But the material does present a counterargument, which is that even if we have free will, it's not absolute.
Ew.
Well, it points out that our choices are always going to be influenced by our desires, beliefs, and values. We're not making decisions in a vacuum.
So even if we have free will, it's always going to be shaped by who we are, what we believe, and what we want.
Exactly. Which raises the question, how free are our choices, really? If they're always going to be influenced by these internal factors, are we truly the ultimate authors of our actions?
I mean, it's like saying we're free to choose. As long as our choices align with who we already are, it's a bit of a mind bender.
No doubt about it. And it makes the whole question of moral responsibility even more complex. If our choices are always shaped by these pre-existing factors, where does that leave our accountability for the consequences of those choices?
I don't know if we'll ever have definitive answers to these big questions, but it's been a fascinating journey exploring them. Thanks to our listener for sending in this thought-provoking material.
Absolutely. And, even without clear-cut answers, engaging with these philosophical debates helps us sharpen our thinking, broaden our perspectives, and maybe even gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
So, as you continue to ponder the nature of reality, the meaning of life, and the complexities of free will, here's something to think about. Of all the philosophical viewpoints we've discussed, which one resonates most deeply with you and why? Which question keeps you up at night? What makes you go, Keep those mental gears turning. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.